get started. I'm going to turn on the music and say good afternoon. Hello and welcome to a live stream. As usual, this is a live stream for DTST 101 Intro to Digital Studies, a class at the University of Mary Washington. And as usual, I'm the professor for that class. I'm Zach Whalen. So hello and thanks for watching. If you are watching live or if you're watching this in the recorded archive, that's fine too. It looks like a few people are online, so somewhat fewer than they were on Monday still, but that's all right. As long as you're watching it live, or watching it at some point, that's fine as far as I'm concerned. Because I've got some things to tell you that I think will be helpful as you complete this the projects this week. So hello, Chosen Clown. Always good to see you online, so thanks for saying hi. And anyone else who's watching right now, if you don't mind saying hi, like it helps me know who's there and who I'm talking to, because sometimes, it's otherwise talking to the void, and it's nice to know who's actually out there. All right, MHFan99, great, good to see you too. All right, cool. So today it's week 2, day 3 is what this title should say. I guess I should. That's unfortunate because that's going to show up on the stream. Let me fix that. I was typing quickly and not paying attention. So this is actually week 2, day 3, right? Because today is Wednesday, right? So that's what we're doing today. Let me start this over again. So there we are. It's week 2, day 3 of Digital Studies 101 in the summer session. So we're moving pretty quickly. This week we're focusing on digital culture and specifically doing a project around web literacy. So these are your goals for today. If you're a student in the class, you should contribute to an activity that I've taken from the textbook, which is an activity around evaluating websites. I'll show you how to do that and show you where to do that. So please do that. Also, you should try to complete the draft of your fact-checking article. And I say draft, it should be done ideally by midnight tonight, and I'll show you what to do when you're done, and a couple of you have already done this, which is great. But that's the main thing for today. And then also you should continue working on your digital culture module. I won't have a ton to say about that because that's on your own sort of work. So hopefully you're working through that. Okay, I'll just remind you about a couple of things you should be keeping track of with that. As usual, if you have questions while I'm streaming, you can enter those into either the Twitch chat or the Discord chat, whichever you prefer. All right, so today the big thing that I want to talk about is this idea of reading laterally, and this fits inside of the web literacy methodology. Let me pull that up real quick. So if we go to the website for the textbook, webliteracy.pressbooks.com, we can take a look at that. And this is, when we're looking at the 4 moves, this is the third of those 4 moves, and the 4th move is really just start over again. So really this is the final step that you're hopefully going to need to do. The first step was checking for previous work, where you find out if someone has already debunked or fact-checked this claim that you're researching. The second step is to go upstream to see where this source came from. And then the third step is to read laterally, and I'll talk about that today, which is basically when you're trying to find out what you can about that source. So I need to, you know what, I'm bothered by this. I need to change the title up here as well so it shows up in my archive the right way. Okay, we'll get back here. So let's review a little bit. So reading laterally is what we're talking about today, but going upstream, that's the second step. So the first step was finding, I guess, the 0th step was finding a claim, and then the first step was checking for prior work. You've already checked for prior work, and so now you're going to go upstream and see what you can find about that. So let's talk about what I mean by the stream, or what Mike Caulfield means by the stream. When we're talking about going, upstream, what does it mean by going downstream? So let's imagine the scenario. There's a website that is cited as evidence in a blog post. There's a blog post somewhere, and it cites some third-party website as evidence for some claim that they're making. We're keeping this totally hypothetical right now, but some claim that they're making, right? So that's not just going to live there on that blog. It's going to be reused and reposted and shared and linked to in different ways. Let's imagine that there's a tweet that the author of that blog tweets out, hey, I wrote this blog post, right? So that blog post then would be linked inside the tweet, and so that's kind of the second link in this imaginary chain that I'm describing here. Well, that tweet's not just going to live by itself. It's on Twitter, so on Twitter things can go all kinds of places from there. So let's imagine it gets quote retweeted by someone else who adds a bunch of hashtags. So that would be like the third level in that particular chain. And then finally, let's say it shows up on Facebook, but it shows up on Facebook as a screenshot of a Twitter post with hashtags and a quote retweet of a tweet linking to the blog of an author where there's a website being cited. It sounds really convoluted when you say it like that, but this happens all the time. Like, this is the constant content stream for these platforms, is resharing the same content back and forth and so on. So let's imagine that you've entered this stream at that last step way over at the bottom, that you found a Facebook post with a screenshot from Twitter. What you're doing when you go upstream is you are looking for, okay, where was the original quote? Like, where's the account that this screenshot came from? When did they tweet it? What were they quote retweeting? Where did that quote retweet link go to? And where is that blog coming from? And then you get back all the way up to that top source. All right, so that's going upstream. And going upstream, you know, we could get really, I guess, philosophical about it, like what is the origin of a claim ultimately, and you know, where does something start? But let's say you found a good website, or a website that seems to be the originator, or seems to be really insisting on whatever the claim is that you're investigating. And I think you'll find some of these, and I have some examples, but you know, there will be some original source for your claim. By the way, before I move on, these are the things that you should be discussing in your article in the examples section. So this is when you've already gone upstream, and maybe the background to some extent, but the examples would be when you've gone upstream and you found what you think is an original source for this claim. That's where you would put that in the examples. But you would also, I mean, you could also put this last one too. Really, any of these would be examples of this claim in action. But I guess the background of the discussion is how does it spread, and what is this network that it spreads inside of? Anyway, so that's going upstream. And then the next step in this chain, or in this process, is reading laterally. So now that we found ourselves at the top of that stream, what do we do to figure out what we need to know about this? And one thing that you should know is that doing this kind of research does not require expertise. You are looking at different topics. Some of them have to do with health, some with politics, some with you know, science stuff. I don't know, lots of different things. But you don't have to be an expert in any of those fields to be able to judge whether someone's telling the truth or not. There are several things we can do, but one of the easiest ways to do that is just to kind of see what other people have already said about this. And in a lot of cases in the field we're talking about, like science, medicine, technology, there are experts and there are people who pretend to be experts. And there are ways that we can tell the difference between those two, but we don't have to be an expert to judge that. And we can do different things to do that. Reading laterally means we're not just going to study this one website and try to figure out if it's telling the truth and like dig into the reputation of the author and all that. We don't really have to, right? We can look laterally to find other websites and see what those websites have to say about this website that we're interested in studying. And these can be anything from like the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, if it's a group that is on their radar because it might be a hate group that tells you something about that website, and the credibility of anything posted on that website is probably going to be suspicious if it's a hate group tracked by the SPLC, right? Or, you know, you can do Google. I mean, Google is you know, we have to know what we're seeing when we use Google, and we also have to use some advanced search parameters, but I'll show you how to do that. Basically, like just Googling a particular domain name and finding out what people say about it can give you a lot of good information. And also simply Wikipedia. Like Wikipedia is great. Wikipedia has a lot of good information on it. In fact, I was looking around today and I found this. This is a list of fake news websites. So if the website you're interested in is on this Wikipedia page about fake news websites, pretty good chance it's a fake news website, right? I mean, Wikipedia, as you know, can be edited by anyone. And so it's technically possible that someone has put a real website on this list of fake news websites in order to discredit it for whatever reason. But it just is really unlikely. And it's also something that if you or someone who actually knows better realizes that's an error, you can just fix it. Like you can just edit the Wikipedia page. So people do that, and people tend to try to make things better on Wikipedia. So in general, you can trust things like this on Wikipedia. Right? I mean, we're not going to trust it alone, but it gives us a pretty good sense. It adds another piece of information in our fact-checking toolkit, or whatever metaphor you like, to help us decide what we need to know about this website in question. All right, so this question, as I've been just presenting it here, this is a blank spot because I'm talking hypothetically here, but the exercise in the web literacy textbook actually does take you through how to do this. And it gives you an activity to work through that involves looking through some specific websites and trying to understand, you know, their accuracy. So let's take a look at the website of the textbook. As usual, by the way, I'm moving kind of quickly just because I know you can, if you're watching this after the fact, you can pause and look at it later. But if you have any questions or if you want me to slow down, please let me know. All right, so here's the reading laterally section of the textbook. Starts with 16 and goes to 30, and it really just kind of gives you the overview. I think it's well written. It's short, so if you're having a hard time understanding this concept, like literally read the textbook. I mean, I think it's really straightforward. And the main thing that you should know is, again, you don't have to be an expert on these things. Also, one thing that is a little tricky too, though, is that a lot of the ways that as a student you're trained to trust the credibility or evaluate the reliability of a source, some of those actually fall apart on the web. And that is a big theme that Mike Caulfield talks about. So looking at a website and seeing like, well, they do have an advisory board and ISSN, and they say they're peer reviewed, so they must be trustworthy. That unfortunately is not always going to get you accuracy on the web, because those are things that are very easy, frankly, to lie about. And so if we're talking about fake news websites, they're definitely going to do that. And so that's the challenge on the web. We don't have the same. We have to use a slightly different set of tools to evaluate credibility and reliability when we're looking at the web. And the biggest and probably most powerful tool we have is reading laterally, which is simply to see what other people have already said about it. Okay, so lots of good stuff here. There are some interesting and possibly more advanced techniques than what you might be used to in terms of using Google. I want to show you a couple of these because this one's really useful. This is web searching for a domain. You can do this on Google. I like to use DuckDuckGo, but let's say, for example, I pulled this one up. This is newstarget.com, and this is not one of the examples that are assigned in the the evaluating websites activity. So I'm doing this one. I'll show you how to do it. I already sort of know the answer about this one, so this is maybe not the best example, but it is an example. So let me show you how you can do this. So all right, so we can go to the news. If we looked at newstarget.com and what it tells us about itself, we will find that it's all about uncensored and independent media news. So okay, that sounds good, right? I mean, it's news. They talk about blah, 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 their website, and they have stuff you can buy, and you can, okay, so basically just in terms of design, it looks like a news website, right? Pretty straightforward. So there's nothing really here that signals just visually that this is a bad website or that this is fake news. I mean, you might see some things in some of these keywords, right? I mean, some of these keywords are definitely like ideologically specific and seem to be targeting a specific audience, specifically a conservative or right-wing audience. But that doesn't necessarily tell us that it's fake or anything. But what we can do is we can see what other people have said about this. So this is one of the first steps you should do when you are reading laterally. I'll do this on Google because it's a little bit easier to see when I put it down below. So we can search for newstarget.com, right? And it'll just give us content from, well, actually, so it looks like this actually did give us quite a few websites about newstarget.com. I was going to show you a way to refine the results, but this actually did refine it pretty well automatically. So what we see is that this is listed on several different websites that track fake news websites, not just that Wikipedia page, but others as well. Interesting. Okay, so the other thing that I was going to show you, though, is like you can actually make sure to exclude newstarget.com from the results. So newstarget.com is the first result here, and most people when they search Google click the first or second result, and that's just kind of what we're trained to do. So let's say you didn't scroll down and see that this is actually listed as a fake news website. This big block here showing you all this content from newstarget.com might lead you to just read some of these things and just to take it for what it is, which is what we're not. This is not reading laterally. That would be doing it wrong. So what we're going to do here is actually subtract something. So in a search query, this also works on DuckDuckGo. You can put a hyphen or a minus sign in front of anything, and it will exclude that from the search results. So when I search for this now, it actually gave me different things, but it tried to suggest that I meant that, but I didn't. So it's interesting, but it gives me a lot less from that website and more about kind of random things, actually. Okay, so I actually liked the results the first time better, but this is the technique. The technique is using that hyphen, that minus sign. I wonder what happens if we just do minus news target. Okay, so this is giving me stuff related to Target, like the retailer Target, which is not that good either. Not relevant anyway. All right, well, that's the idea, though. That's the search technique that's being described here to find out, for example, about the Baltimore Gazette. So this is a genre. What you see here is this is a genre of fake news where it's a website that pretends to be a major news website. So it's not like like News Target presents itself as an alternative news source, but sometimes you'll see something like this screenshot here where it's a website that pretends to be just a hometown newspaper, and it kind of has a title that sounds like a hometown newspaper, and so you might see just a screenshot and take it for granted that there actually is a newspaper called the Baltimore Gazette, which there is not. There is not a newspaper of that name. You can learn about this. Oh, that's what I was missing, the site. Maybe let's try that. Let me try that qualifier, newstarget.com. Yeah, okay, that's better. This is what I missed on that technique. Let me show you that again. So right now in this technique, I'm searching for not just newstarget.com, but I'm excluding, this is how you exclude that full site. You have to add the site parameter. I forgot about that. So it's -site.newstarget.com. Okay, so this just as an aside, the site modifier or the site parameter on a search is a good way to find, it's a way to search only results from a particular domain. And so a lot of times when I need to find something on the UMW website, I find that the search built into the website for whatever reason just doesn't get me what I need very quickly. So if I need to find something on the UMW website, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to use site:/umw.edu and then whatever query I'm searching for, and it just searches for results on our umw.edu domain name. But you can use that in reverse and exclude a domain name from your results, which is what we did with newstarget.com. So let me show you that again. Newstarget.com -site:/newstarget.com is what's going to give me those results. Then you can see the first result here is this list of sites that are dubious, fake news, clickbait, and hate sites. For some reason my scroll is broken here. Can't seem to scroll down. Probably because of an iframe. Actually, this page is sort of locked. Oh well. But that's the idea. That is one thing you can do in reading laterally. Okay, so there are some more techniques. Let's see what else we can do. Here's some things not to do, I guess. Like I've said, don't read just the about page on the website. And also in this activity, we're not assessing the individual merits of any particular claims or articles on those websites. Although if we see some that we already know something about, they can help inform our impression of something. But really, reading laterally means we're not looking at the website itself. We're trying to find out what other people have said about that website as we try to figure it out. So, one thing you can do is, as I said, you can consult other non-affiliated websites like Wikipedia. You can use advanced search filters like excluding that domain name from your results. And you can also use something called a Whois tool to learn more about a particular domain. And this gets a little bit technical, but it's not too bad if you use a web interface to a Whois query. So the one I used, and this is the one I recommended way back when you all were signing up for your domains. It's just an easy way to look up the Whois information. Every domain name registered on the internet has an owner, and so you can look up who the owner is. And sometimes it's informative. Sometimes it's not. A lot of people they register their domains by a proxy, so you'll see that it's owned by, quote, domains by proxy or by GoDaddy or something like that. A lot of people do that to protect their privacy, because otherwise this information that gets registered with your domain name is actually public, and you can look it up, like here, anybody can look it up. You can actually do this from a command line on your computer if you just type the word Whois and then a domain name. But this is a lot easier to read on the website. So this is interesting. So now, like I said, you don't have to have expertise or special knowledge to do this, but I do see something here that I know about that I think give me enough information to know that I don't need to search any further about this, at least combined with the other information. So we have News Target is listed on these fake news websites. It's listed on that that Wikipedia page, and then I see here that it's registered by proxy, through a privacy administrator, but it's registered by Epic Incorporated, Epic with a K. And Epic Incorporated is a domain name registrar that, I guess to put it charitably, the way that they would probably say it, they have a rigorous and absolutist kind of free speech policy. And so a lot of times websites that are controversial or offensive or horrible will be dropped by their registrars. So the company that hosts their domain name will say, we're not going to deal with you anymore. And so those companies, those websites, they go find a host that is willing to work with them, and Epic is is that host. They're willing to work with the sites that have been kicked off of other hosts for being offensive or terrible or whatever. So the fact that they're hosted by Epic doesn't automatically mean that it's a fake news site or that it's a conspiracy site, but combined with the other information plus just the fact that it's linked to the Natural News Network, it just gives me enough information that I'm dubious of anything I see here, right? So this is how I've read laterally to tell me what I need to know about this. That this is probably not a reliable source. Okay, so let's take a look at the activity, because I actually have a link. Well, I gotta log into Canvas, it seems. Well, I gotta log into my password manager. Let me just tie my browser real quick while I log into my password manager, just because that's kind of, kind of private. So also I have to actually see it because it's a very long master password. But I mentioned these the other day. Password managers are a great way to remember your password, or to not have to remember your passwords, because they will remember those passwords for you, so you can make your passwords long and complex without having to worry about remembering them. Okay, so in the notes for today, I forgot to link this homepage to that, so let me do that. I did link to today's notes in the announcement I sent earlier, so hopefully you've seen it. Just do this link real quick. To day 3. All right. To day 3. Here we are. So we're talking about reading laterally. Here's a little bit of background on that, and here's a link to a collaboratively editable Google Doc where I'm inviting you to participate in this activity. So after you've read these chapters, here's where I would like for you to do this. You can pick any one of these sites. There's 14 of them. I know there's more than 14 of you in this class, so if you get to this document and it's all full, then just look at one of these and see if you have anything to add or correct about it. So what we're doing, these are links to specific articles in some cases, but the idea is to evaluate the website itself. So here it's nature.com, dailycoast.com. This one's a little convoluted because the link is the original website that is part of this activity is no longer, this content doesn't exist anymore. But here's a archive.org Wayback Machine copy of it. So in this case, you're assessing CODA or CODOH.com. And when you look at this article, if you choose this one, a lot of these are kind of acronyms. So NSIDC, SMH.com.al, OccupyDemocrats.com, PrincipIaScientific.org. So again, what you're going to do with this is just pick one, or you could try several and then choose one you feel comfortable with or whatever, or that you're interested in for whatever reason. The idea is to take a look at PrincipIaScientific.org in this case, and I'm making sure that this one's complaining about my ad blocker. But this is the idea, is to assess this website. You can look at it, of course. This is this is where you start. But your goal is to read laterally, so you really shouldn't spend too much time at all on this actual website, PrincipIaScientific.org. Remember, reading laterally means we're going to find out what other people say about this site. So let's try the Google technique. I'll go to Google again. Go PrincipIaScientific.org, and then we're going to try to exclude. Well, you can see people are trying to search Wikipedia for it, but let's try to do the Google one first. We'll do the site : PrincipIaScientific.org. Hope I spelled that right. All right, great. So these are some websites about that website. So this is my first step in reading laterally, and again, just Googling it just skimming the Google results pretty quickly. I already get an impression, but I should take a look at some of these particular websites. Now, it's possible, like if you get to a website you don't actually already know, like desmog.org, climatefeedback.org, mediasmarts.ca. I don't really know these websites. So you should also really read laterally to find out about these websites too, if they're the only source for information about the website you're researching. But if you find Wikipedia, you hopefully are familiar with Wikipedia, right? So Wikipedia is something that can give you some information that is relatively reliable. It's linked, for some reason, this Heartland Institute came up. I don't know what their relationship is, but they might be the organization behind this. Let's see. Okay, well, they're citing information from principiascientific.org on this article, so that doesn't tell us a whole lot, actually. But that's, that is something. They do show up there. They do have a page on mediabiasfactcheck.com. So again, you always want to find out about what these sources are, what their reliability factor is. But the idea is by reading laterally enough, eventually you will find a website that you actually know something about or that you feel confident in trusting, and then that's what you trust in order to arrive at your conclusion about this. All right, so that's the basic reading laterally. But the thing we're trying to find out here is a little bit deeper than that too. Like, who runs principiascientific.org and why? Like, what is their goal? In that case, you might actually want to see what their stated goals are. That probably is close to what they intend. But what is their history of accuracy? How do they rate on process aim and expertise? Like, are they reliable, basically? And if you can find evidence of them being reliable, then that's great. If you can't find either way, then that's fine too, I guess. But if you find evidence that they are unreliable or deceptive or misleading in some way, then yeah, they're going to rate very lowly they're going to rate very low on those processes. So add whatever comment you think makes sense here for each of these. Hopefully we can get all these filled in today. So, all right, guys, so there's an anonymous raccoon working on OccupyDemocrats.com right now. So good job, anonymous raccoon. And I don't know much about that site, so I'll be curious to see what you find out. But again, look on, do the lateral reading thing. Okay, so the other big thing going on, of course, is completing and sharing your draft. And there's a bit of process involved here, so I want to make sure you know the steps in the process. I have a few slides to show you those, so let's take a look now. First of all, once you're done with your document, you are going to share your document. I don't want to take for granted that all of you know how to do this, so I'm going to show you how to do this. It is the big blue share button in the top right of a document page whenever you're editing it. And this is an example. So if I'm this is my template, of course, but after you've made a copy of this and completed it with your research, then you will share it. And this is the big share button up here, way up in the top right of the document. That's the share button. That's what I'm talking about. It looks like this. Okay, so that's the one. The next thing is you want to adjust the permissions on the document before you actually send the link to someone. And you do that in the pop-up, and you want it to look like it does here in this screenshot. So you want it to say anyone with the link right here, and you want it to say commenter way over there on the right. And I'll show you what that would look like in the process. You would hit share, and then this little pop-up comes up where it says get link. Mine's already set this way, so it says anyone on the internet with this link can comment, and that's what you want. If it doesn't say that, you can click change, and then again, and you keep it on anyone with the link on this part, and then on the right, switch that to commenter, switch that from whatever it's on to commenter. Okay, and then copy the link. And once you've copied that link, then put that in Discord. So Chosen Clown is asking should you put your initials for the website you chose? Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, that makes sense. Although I'm not really grading this, but I do want to know who's done it so that I can kind of follow up with you. So yeah, let's do that. I'll add a column for that. That's a good idea. Insert. Oops. So that last column that says researched by, put your initials there. That's a good idea. Okay, feel free to adjust the size of these table cells if that helps. You have full edit access on this document, so go ahead and do whatever makes sense. Okay, good. So that's the process. Your next step after this, I don't have a slide for it, but that would be to go to the Web Literacy Review channel in Discord and say, hey, here's my article draft, and post a link there. Okay, so your basic steps look like this. So you've completed your draft, share your draft in Discord. Other people have already started sharing their documents, so there are some for you to review. So take a look and review at least 2 other drafts, so drafts by 2 other students in the class. And when I say review, what I mean is go through the documents, look for, first of all, look for surface level stuff like typos, grammar, things like that, things that could be expressed more clearly. But then look at the ideas, right? So do they have good examples of the claim? Have they shown with evidence that the claim is true or false? And have they explained how they know that evidence is reliable? These articles don't have a minimum length, and there's not a minimum number of examples or evidence that you need, but it should be long enough to get the point across and with some depth. And also the examples and evidence, having some is better than having one. So have at least one, but try to have 3 or 4 if you can. I think that would be more helpful. That would make a more reliable document. So yeah, and I guess there's the reviewed by part. I guess you can't add that if you're just commenting, but make sure you leave your initials on your comments when you do add comments. Okay, so after you've had other people reviewing your document, hopefully you'll have at least 2 people leave comments on your document. Once you've done that, complete your final revisions, and that would involve responding to their comments. If they've got good advice, then try to follow it. If they have advice that doesn't make sense to you, then you can just resolve the comment and essentially ignore it. Or you might just have a conversation with them and say, well, actually, I have a better idea, and you can talk about it in the comment thread if you want to. But whatever you need to do, complete the final version, what you think of as the final version of this document. And then you're not actually going to turn this article in directly. The fact that you've shared them in Discord means I'll be able to find them, and that's fine. But what I do want you to do is write a blog post. This will be on your blog, your subdomain, whatever you're doing for blogging for this class. Write a blog post reflecting on what you learned. There's a description in the assignment of the kinds of things I'm looking for in terms of what you learned, but whatever occurs to you, and submit that blog post in Canvas, and that'll be what your final submission is for this assignment. So that blog post, which has to come after everything else, that's due Friday night, like everything else for this week. Okay, so this is really the web literacy, I call it a checklist, but this is really it in a nutshell. There's stuff before the first step here, of course, but that has to do with creating the draft. Everything else these are the next steps in the procedure that you should follow starting today. Okay, so if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask them, because I'm moving actually near the end of this. Looks like I'm probably not going to go for a full hour today, which is, I assume, is okay with you. It's okay with me. I'm thirsty. I need to get a drink. But let's just a couple things about the digital culture module. So the digital culture module is something that you're doing on your own, and so I'm not really giving you a lot of, I guess, guidance or constraints around those. I can give you advice if you want it, but basically it's figure out something interesting to do. But the mechanics of it are the same as they were for the creativity module. So I really want 2 blog posts, one at the beginning, or like now. I want you to be working in Discord or sharing your progress or sharing what you've learned in Discord with the channel. Now you might be the only person in the channel, but at least go through the motion, like just in case, because I think some people will be kind of doing this later, catching up later, or even next week. So, go ahead and put yourself in that channel, even if you're the only one using that channel for now. And then a final blog post on your blog explaining what you learned. If you did create something for this, like if you created a video, like if you're doing the YouTubing one, or if you did memes, if you did the memes one and you created some memes, you can certainly share those in your blog post. All right, that would be a good way to show your work. But you don't have to. This is not an artifact-oriented assignment. Like, you're not working toward a specific kind of thing here. This is an exploration, and I want to hear what you learned in the process of that exploration. And then, like before, I would like for you to record a short video, post that in the share channel in Discord, and that'll be your final thing that you do for this culture module. And that's actually all I have to say today. So let me see if anyone's working on the websites evaluating this one. Okay, that's I remember that. That sounds kind of familiar. Anonymous Raccoon. I'm guessing that's either MHFin or Chosen Clown, but I do remember the Tea Party, certainly. All right, well, yeah. I think I actually blocked that domain from being, so I don't see anything posted from that on Facebook, because it was mostly, spammy kind of stuff that I didn't care to look at. But anyway, I have seen that domain before. I just don't ever look at it. So I guess I'm kind of giving away my impression of their history of accuracy. Which isn't to say, I don't know, I haven't looked at the site in years, so maybe they're better. And it wasn't that it was inaccurate or fake news, it was just kind of low quality, sort of like hysterical speculation kind of stuff. It wasn't exactly news, from what I recall. All right, anyway, I'm going to go and wrap things up. If you have any questions, I'll be online, of course. Always feel free to drop in on the office hours. If you see me online, then that means I'm there. hopefully, I mean, sometimes I step away, but I try to shut off Discord if I do step away. But I'm online and I'm happy to talk through things. You may find yourself needing some help, and that's fine. I'm here to help. A couple of you have been using the DKC. That's great. The DKC probably, like this particular assignment isn't super technical, so the DKC probably isn't going to be that much help for this assignment. But if you just kind of want to talk to someone else about this assignment besides me, then I guess they are available for that. But I hope you feel comfortable talking to me about the assignment because I want to help you do this well. So please talk to me. Please get in touch. If you just want to do voice, conversations, Discord is set up to do that. You just drop in and start talking. Just click on the channel name, the voice channel name, which is just office hours, and you will connect and start talking. You can also, of course, contact me, and I still haven't updated. I'm actually pretty close to getting my new website unveiled, but until then, the old one is still here, but the booking thing, that does work. So if you want to reserve an appointment with me, you can use the form that's about to pop up here to book that time. Yeah, this website is slow. This is one reason why I'm getting away from WordPress, but actually Grav, which I'm using now, is also kind of slow until you get it configured, and so I'm still working with like a slow website as I'm building a new one, which is kind of why I'm dragging my feet on it. I'm kind of like, it's kind of a hassle. Like, I know that once I get it figured out, it is super fast, but it's not yet, so it's kind of frustrating to work with. Finally, there we go. So you want to hit the book now button, and then you can pick a different kind of, whatever kind of appointment you need. I'm also available beyond the hours that are specified here. I just have certain hours that are there for you to reserve time in, but I'm available other times as well. If there's something that you want to talk about and I'm not available, or I don't appear to be available according to my time, send me a message anyway. I might be available. I can meet with someone. I met with someone 8 o'clock last night. That's fine. Whatever works for you. If I'm available, I will let you know. If I'm not, then I will say I'm not. Okay, so that's all I have for today. I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll see you online. I'll be doing one more live stream this week, so that's tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And then next week is a little different actually, because there's the July 4th holiday, which means that we're supposed to have Monday off, like next Monday off. So I'll just be doing content on Tuesday through Friday next week. Just a heads up there. Okay, so I'm just seeing a question here from MHFin. Let's see. So today we need to complete and share our draft. Yes. Complete the web literacy checklist. Right. Well, not complete it all, but most of it. Right. You need to get to the draft. The checklist actually takes you all the way to the end. That end is due Friday. Then do the sponsored content thing and share a blog post. Yeah, I mean, those are a lot of things, but those are actually, a lot of those things you're talking about there, MHFin, are due Friday. So let me just go back again to make sure that you're clear about that. So, share your draft in Discord by today and start reviewing other drafts. But really, most of these bullet points, this is due Friday. So, for the web literacy part, like this is the assignment. So you should be at the point where you have a draft now, so that you can have it prepared and completed and revised and reflected on by Friday. Right? That's the timeline here. Maybe I should have put a timeline on this, but that's the idea. Similarly, for the digital cultures module, your initial blog post, probably do that today if you haven't already. But everything else is due Friday. So hopefully that makes sense. But this thing, the evaluating websites exercise, or this one here, do this today, because this is helping you practice the skill that you should be using to complete your fact-checking article. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, well, I guess I really will wrap it up now. But hopefully that makes sense, MHFan. If you have follow-up questions, I can still see your comments if you leave them after I stop the stream. So. Or just, chat with me in Discord if you want. Okay, everyone. So that is all for now. I will wish you all a good afternoon. Hopefully you're staying cool. And I'll see you tomorrow.